edition of Fox Sports.
We are Blackmore. We are St. Louis.
Over the weekend, a tough series for St. Louis. After a win on Friday night, the bats came alive for Pittsburgh against the St. Louis bullpen. The Pirates, in taking 2 of 3, have moved into first place. And now Adam Wainwright and the St. Louis Cardinals welcome the Cincinnati Reds to Busch. The weather has turned here in the middle of America. St. Louis, Missouri, and Busch Stadium. A beautiful night for baseball as the Cardinals play host to the Cincinnati Reds. The Reds are loaded with big bats in the middle of their lineup. He knows them well. That's Yadier Molina. He'll team up with Adam Wainwright tonight. And welcome to St. Louis Cardinals baseball. That's Rick Horton. I'm Dan McLaughlin. And Rick, let's jump right into it. First bank, first take. The Cardinals since 2004, whether it be at Busch Stadium 2 or at this ballpark, really have played the Reds very tough.
And with the Cardinals struggling the last 48 hours, this could be the perfect antidote. The Reds just have not played well here at all. The Cardinals 50-24, winning percentage close to 700. Only the Brewers and the Pirates a bigger number. In fact, that's where the Pirates are right now in Milwaukee. The Cardinals also have a good pitching matchup here today in Game 1.
It is Matt Latos, the former San Diego Padre, getting the start for the Cincinnati Reds. Adam Wainwright, he's been a lot of smiles this year. Will it carry over to Game 1? Game set here at Busch Stadium. Blues are in the playoffs, and Fox Sports Midwest, Bud Light, and the Blues present outdoor playoff rallies before every home game. Enjoy bands and a great pregame party tomorrow night before the Blues and Kings from Scott Trade Center. Good luck to the St. Louis Blues. Good luck to Adam Wainwright, as Adam will get the start here this evening and finishing up his warm-up tosses and trying to make it 5 in a row.
Wainwright was very good, Dan, in his last outing against the Nationals. He had not pitched well in his career in Washington. Hasn't pitched well against the Reds either, but maybe he'll buck that trend as well.
So big number 50 is on the mound. There's a live look at Adam warming up here at Busch Stadium. We've got more coming up on Fox Sports Midwest. One of this 3-game series. Cincinnati and St. Louis. And some changes in that bullpen tonight, Rick Horton.
Cardinals bring up Seth Manis from AAA, and when you think of Manis, think control. Not an overpowering right-hander, only 10 walks in 160-plus innings a year ago. It gives the Cardinals a different look in their bullpen.
Little shakeup by John Mozeliak and Mike Matheny. We'll talk about Manis. We'll talk about the Cardinals. We'll also talk about the dominance of Adam Wainwright throughout his career. That's next. saw Adam Wainwright pitch here at Busch Stadium. He threw his 5th career shutout. Here's a look back at the 5 most dominating starts in Adam Wainwright's career. Swing and a miss. Wainwright, another strikeout. Complete game for Adam Wainwright. His first career complete game shutout. Wainwright goes the distance. Masterful performance and win number 16. It only took 110 pitches. That is a nasty breaking ball that time. Curveball and a strikeout. Wainwright goes the distance. A 4-hit shutout.
Good fastball on the inside corner. Swing and a miss on a breaking pitch. And that's exactly what Adam Wainwright does. His 4th career shutout.
Got him on the outside corner. Got him! 12 strikeouts as Wainwright goes the distance. Brought to you by Bud Light, the sure sign of a good time. Here we go. See your Mid-America Chevy dealer or log on to stlchevy.com. Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers, #1 for quality tires and expert auto service. Save big money at Menards on all your home improvement needs. And by Steak and Shake. Steak and Shake, just no equal. Just a perfect night for baseball. NL Central Showdown. Reds back in St. Louis already. These two teams will face each other 19 times. And a look at Dusty Baker's lineup here for game #1 to face the always tough righty Adam Wainwright. And it's a lineup that some of these guys really producing at numbers that we expect them to be at. How about Shin-Soo Choo? Off to a great start. High on base percentage, hitting .344. Then Cozart and Votto, Phillips, Bruce, Frazier, Xavier Paul to start in left. They have some injuries to talk about. Mesoraco is behind the plate, and then Matt Latos will bat 9th. It's Holiday, Jay, and Craig in the outfield. Freese, Cosmo on the left side. Carpenter and Ty Wigginton getting the start at first. And behind the plate, the always reliable Yadier Molina. Around the horn is brought to you by Dobbs, and there's Ty Wigginton.
Wigginton playing first base today with Carlos Beltran on the bench. Beltran feeling a little bit ill. He's available and a little bit under the weather a day ago, and there's the numbers for Adam Wainwright looking for his 5th victory. And what you really love about Wainwright is the fact that he is striking out so many batters, and he's walked only 1, and that was semi-intentional. That is just incredible numbers, walk to strikeout ratio. Wainwright has been very, very good at controlling the counts.
Shin Soo Choo. Talked about it in the first series with the Reds. They really struggled at the top of their lineup a year ago. On-base percentage was awful, under 300. So they went out and got Choo, and he has delivered. He slices one into the corner, and that's how we start the series. It's a fair ball. Dug out by Holiday, and Choo will stop at second base. It's a leadoff double.
So you'd think that leadoff batters always take a pitch, work a deep count. That's how they get good on-base percentages. Well, every once in a while they take that pitch right down central and give it a rip, and that's what Choo just did. He has been on base, Dan, almost half the time. And just incredible. He leads the league in on-base percentage, and has now had, of the 26 games he's been in, he's been on base 25 of those games.
Here is Zach Cozart at the second spot in the lineup, looking to bunt and pushes it foul.
You mentioned a year ago they had Drew Stubbs in that leadoff spot. Stubbs, more of a base stealer and pretty exciting player, and we kind of saw some good moments from him in the outfield and on the base pass, but he struck out so much. And Choo brings this Reds team something they haven't had for a couple of years.
And the Reds have been winning at home, 12-4 at home, but on the road only 2 wins, 2-8. Here's the 0-1 pitch to the shortstop tonight. Long look by Wainwright. Zach Cozart pulls it back, and you see the Reds bunting here in the first inning, realizing that Wainwright has been so good this year. You get somebody in scoring position even early in a game trying to sacrifice. Dusty Baker says this may be my best chance tonight. Who knows?
And it's part of setting up your lineup to where you've got a traditional number 2 batter that can do things with the bat, like move runners over and bunt. When you have a power guy in that lineup, you're really hesitant to do this early on.
Trying to keep Choo close at second, and it's taken for a ball outside. 2 balls and 1 strike. Wainwright, his last time out was against Washington, and he was terrific. I asked Mike Matheny about lifting Waino in that game. He said it was a short conversation. He was none too pleased. Probably wasn't too happy with him the day after, but so what? Club got the win, and so did Waino. There's the bunt, and Wainwright only play is to go to first. Choo advancing to third on the sacrifice.
Number 19, first baseman.
When trying to sacrifice, the pitcher generally tries to throw the ball up in the zone. They're typically difficult pitches to bunt. You've got to get on top of it. Cozart gets that job done, deadens the ball in front of Wainwright, and advances Choo.
Many teams in the league have elected just not to pitch to Joey Votto. Average is down this year at 284. The infield is in, and that's why he delivers a 1-run lead for Cincinnati. Joey Votto with his 11th RBI. But Rick, you look at the on-base percentage of Joey Votto coming into play tonight, 444. He had already been walked 26 times, so many teams electing not to deal with the former MVP.
This time it's a curveball up a bit in the zone to Votto. I asked some of the Reds personnel, will Votto ever start to expand his zone to become the RBI guy and not just take walks? And the answer was an emphatic no. He is a guy that is very disciplined at the plate. He's going to take his walks if you give them to him, and he just believes that's the way you hit, and you can't kind of argue with a guy that's hitting .316 in his career.
Because of the injuries that the Reds have had, their second baseman will bat cleanup, and he has been a really versatile player in his years in Cincinnati as far as where he lands in the lineup. He's batted leadoff, second, third, and fourth.
I like him number 2 the best.
And here's a 1-0 pitch.
He gives the combination of the power potential that I was talking about earlier, but he also can be pretty nifty with the bat. He can hit the ball the other way. He can bunt. He can do a lot of other things. He's just really a complete player. And I know every time I compliment Brandon Phillips, I get a lot of bad comments from Cardinal fans because they love to hate Brandon Phillips. But there's no denying he's a good player. Very good player.
The 2-0 pitch. One thing we have seen from Adam Wainwright this season, increase in velocity. Now it's not back to where it was when he was 95 to 97, but increased velocity, late movement, and that big 12-6 curveball has come back too.
Everything's sharp too. His slider slash cutter, his curveball, the fastball. He's just has a lot of sharp pitches, and location's been very, very good.
He has walked one man this year. That's it. That was in his previous start in Washington. And you think about strategy at that time in the game, it was probably by design and pitching around one of the Washington hitters in their lineup. And that's been the only walk this season for Adam Wainwright.
He walked Bryce Harper in a situation where Harper could do some damage. And he wasn't he was still trying to let Harper get himself out, so he just did a masterful job of controlling the strike zone in that game as well. And when you've got a starting pitcher, your ace, leading the way like that, it's resulted in the other Cardinal starters following suit. A lot of strikeouts, very few walks out of this Cardinal starting staff.
Outfield is deep. The 3-1 pitch is taken for a ball. It's one of those rare walks issued this season by Wainwright. First runner allowed in the first inning by Adam here in 2013. Brings in Jay Bruce. Just joining us, the news of the day here at the ballpark, Mark Zepchinski, option to AAA Memphis. The Cardinals purchased the contract of a right-hander, Seth Maness, from Memphis. He was an 11th round pick out of East Carolina University. So only one lefty to face the many lefties in this lineup out of the bullpen. And you think about Bruce, you think about Votto, you think about Shin-Soo Choo.
All lefties that can hurt you, so it'll be interesting in this series for Mike Matheny to try to mix and match with Randy Choate and use him at the right time in the right place. There'll be multiple opportunities to use him. When do you?
Maness, by the way, was the Cardinals' minor league pitcher of the year a season ago. He has issued, listen to this, a total of 18 walks, and he has faced 993 batters. That is hard to do. So he is a pitch maker. Off speed is very good and throws strikes.
Nearly 250 minor league innings. Not an overpowering pitcher, a guy with a sinker, and I do like the fact, Dan, and we mentioned it in the open, that he brings a different kind of look to the Cardinal pen. Not another guy throwing 98 and with great stuff and strikeout pitcher, but a guy who's a guy that's going to throw strikes, keep the ball down in the zone, not walk anybody, and get some double plays. So I like the fact that it's a different look, so you can change up your bullpen from day to day.
Here is a 1-2. Runners stay put at first and second. And Maness is a guy that when you start looking at the roles of the bullpen, and it's not like it was a year ago with Mott out. You've got Mahika out of the 7th, now closing games out. Rosenthal in the 8th. Kelly now takes on a greater role, so your long man very well could be Maness. And
he's been starting.
He's been starting. And the Cardinals really haven't had an issue as far as starters not going deep in games. So that has not been a problem this year, and he can pitch on back-to-back days.
And it's another reason you pitch well in spring training, because you're opening some eyes, even though he just was there, I don't want to say as a courtesy. He was invited to spring training as a rostered player. Actually, he was a non-rostered player, but he was invited because he pitched so well the year before and opened some eyes, and Cardinal staff remembered.
Runners at first and second. The 3-2 pitch. Got him. Strikeout of Bruce. Took some off that curveball. 76 miles an hour. And the first strikeout of the night for Adam Wainwright.
Well, you talked about the 12-6 curveball, Dan, and that's what we see here from Wainwright to Jay Bruce, who's been struggling a bit. Jay with just one home run on the season. There's the spin of the ball, 12-6 on the clock. Starts out about waist high and ends up in the dirt by the time the ball gets to the plate. A lot of late movement, a lot of sharp movement from Wainwright.
Replay brought to you by Plaza Tire Service. This pitch is popped up off the bat of Todd Frazier. Ty Wigginton in foul territory makes the catch. Wigginton, his first start at first base this year. Reds grab an early lead. This year, it's John Jay, then Carpenter and Holiday, Craig, Molina, Freese, Wigginton, Cosma, Wainwright. The defense brought to you by Dobbs. Xavier Paul is in left, Chu in center, Jay Bruce is in right. For Paul, it's his first start in the outfield this year. Frazier and Cozart on the left side, Phillips, Votto on the right side, and Devin Mesoraco is behind the plate. Matt Latos, very good right-hander on the mound for Cincinnati.
5 starts for Cincinnati this year, all quality starts, and Cardinal fans may remember his start here the last time the Reds were in town. The Cardinals took 2 out of 3 games. He started that game where the Reds scored 9 runs in the 9th inning. We remember that game well. That was Jaime Garcia and Latos, and it was also the game that Chu dropped 2 balls in center field. So a quality start because there were some unearned runs in that game.
John Jay back to the familiar spot of leadoff tonight.
9 for 20 in his career against Latos. Also 4 for his last 8.
And here's a 1-0 pitch. Latos, for whatever reason, though, outside of his last start, for the most part, has really struggled here at Busch Stadium and against the Cardinals.
He sure has, especially here at Busch Stadium. Some of those starts came early in his career. They really think he's matured, not only as a pitcher, but the Reds broadcaster's telling me about the game where Chu dropped the 2 balls in center. He went out of his way to approach Chu and kind of reinstate him and say, hey, don't worry about it. It's no big deal. And that's not the Latos that we heard about early in his career at all.
And that is a leadoff walk. And Latos already shaking his head. His career ERA is over 10 in 5 starts here at Busch Stadium. But last 2 outings here, he surrendered just 2 earned runs over 11 innings.
And he's working on 11 scoreless innings. Beat the Cubs his last outing, 7 solid innings. And he can get some strikeouts. He's not afraid to pitch in, and his ball moves a lot. And he's got kind of a running fastball. He's got a slider curve. He throws the breaking pitch different speeds. So he has kind of a pretty solid, deep repertoire.
A lot warmer here tonight. We expect that tomorrow and on Wednesday. And you would hope that would have a positive effect on this lineup. The weather heats up and the bats heat up as well. We have played in a lot of cold weather this year. Not to make excuses, but it is tough to hit in cold weather. The Cardinals have played in a bunch in this first month.
A lot of low team averages in the National League in general, Dan. A lot of teams hitting around 240.
So it's been chilly around Major League Baseball.
A lot of teams have lost a lot of games in the early going. Yeah. And the doubleheaders that pile up are going to matter. The Cardinals hitting 247 as a team, and that's just what the Reds are hitting. And the difference with the Reds is the Cardinals are hitting better with runners in scoring position and scoring more runs than St. Louis.
There's the 0-2 pitch. Carpenter called out on strikes. Four straight balls to start the game, then 3 straight strikes. Reds won in Washington over the weekend. As you get a look at the numbers for Holiday, ended that 8-game road losing skid. It was a 5-2 win yesterday. We talked about this differential, how they play at home as opposed to what they've done on the road. That's the largest differential in baseball. And again, it's worth repeating. 12 wins at home, 12-4, 2-8 for Dusty Baker on the road.
Yeah, they won 1 out of 4 games in Washington to start this road trip. They only hit 175 as a team, and their big complaint, not their bullpen. They are anchored by a couple of good pitchers in Broxton and a great one in Chapman, actually. But with the good starting pitching, not been the problem. They're just not hitting like they thought they would.
Here is the 0-1 pitch. Swung on and missed by Holiday, 0-2.
Everybody's got a thought about Dusty Baker, and he certainly has a great personality that he brings to the game. I'm a big fan of Dusty Baker's, and we've had some dust-ups with him, no pun intended. But the 63-year-old manager, I think, is very good at what he does. 3-time manager of the year.
Here's the 0-2. Dusty, all those great years he had with San Francisco, 1 win shy of a World Series championship with them, and also 1 win shy of getting to a World Series with the Chicago Cubs. Can you imagine being that manager or GM, the guy that builds a team to lead the Chicago Cubs, not just into postseason, but to a World Series? You'll own the town. Ball scoots away, and John Jay is in scoring position. So now you can throw out every number you've ever seen and start taking a look at what the Cardinals do with runners in scoring position.
Mesoraco complaining about Holiday not getting out of the way, but he doesn't have to. He didn't have to go anywhere. It's his box. He could have stayed right where he was. So Mesoraco can complain all he wants. Holiday's entitled to that spot in the box.
.335 average with runners in scoring position for the Cardinals, and it's even better with 2 outs at .362. That's amazing. That's one of the reasons why the team is in the position they're in. Great starting pitching and also timely hitting. Big gap in left center, and Holiday shoots it out to right. Catch is made by Bruce. Mentioned that Mark Zepchinski has been optioned to AAA Memphis, so 1 lefty in that bullpen for Mike Matheny. That's Randy Choate. Let's check in with Jim with more on that.
Yeah, Mike was asked about having just 1 lefty for this series before the game, and he said Zepchinski wasn't really being used as a matchup guy anyway. Lefties were hitting .385 against Zepchinski, and according to John Mozeliak, they want Mark to go down to AAA, work through some things, and get himself back on track, Dan.
It's also a move, Rick, and I would assume you would agree with this. It's a shakeup.
Yeah.
It's something that catches your attention if you're wearing the birds on the bat.
Well, you caught my attention in your comment, and this is where the Cardinals are, and it's interesting to evaluate just where are they right now. I mean, you'd say 48 hours ago, you'd say not a bad spot.
Hit to the right side and knocked down by Phillips. That will save a run. And it will be a base hit, I believe, for Alan Craig.
Should be a hit, Dan, and Craig has not hit Cincinnati well. They've handled it better than any team in baseball, in fact. The Reds having it just 188, but this ball hit to the left of Phillips, and he's just got to try to keep that in the infield, make sure that run doesn't score. Gold Glover. Would have been a nice play if he made it, and he's made those before. But the point is, 48 hours ago, we were all thrilled about where the Cardinals were. They were 6 games over 500, 4th best record in baseball, and within a 48-hour period, some of the problems have arisen out of the bullpen, and they've maybe gotten worse, and so now we're kind of in panic mode. Some are, but I don't think panic is the right way to go about it, but it's not bad to tinker some and to maybe send some little messages that, look, performance matters. And I think that's part of the bullpen move the Cardinals made, and I think it makes sense.
It's not a knee-jerk reaction. It's not a house cleaning, but it catches your attention.
It's a step.
When you think about Mark Zipchinski in 2011 and the role that he played down the stretch, how good he was. You think about Zipchinski against Milwaukee and those matchups with Prince Fielder in postseason play. If he doesn't have those matchups, the team is not playing for a World Series championship.
And hanging with Zepp on the Cardinals winter caravan for a couple of days, one of the things that found out just by looking at his stats even closer, the second half of the season, ERA under 2.
Right.
So he had a bad first half last year, but his second half was good. As Araujo, a catcher trying to learn the trade, didn't like that location, and he's telling Latos, keep that shoulder in, don't fly out, and catcher's going to be the first one to see that. Pitcher feels it, but not bad to have a catcher remind you. And they really miss Ryan Hannigan behind the plate because he's a guy that handles the pitchers very, very well.
Molina, a couple of hops to second, flipped over, and we move to the second. 1-0 Cincinnati. Some of the biggest names in baseball: Molina, Phillips, Wainwright, the Cincinnati Reds, and the St. Louis Cardinals here in Game 1 from Busch Stadium.
Wainwright gave up a run in that first inning, and the problem, the leadoff double by Soo Choo, and Xavier Paul, who's been a leadoff hitter in his career, leads off here in the second inning. And the Reds really, Dan, have struggled to get production in left field since losing Ryan Ludwig. And now Chris Heise is out, also on the disabled list, the 7th player on the DL for the Reds. He has hamstring issues that happened couple of days ago. So Paul getting the start, and they have just really struggled to find any kind of offense from left field.
Here's a 1-0 pitch to Paul, taken low and in.
Ryan Ledwick actually at the ballpark today. The Reds asked him to come in. They have a team function here in St. Louis during this road trip. They wanted him around for that, and he still has his arm in a sling. And his shoulder separation and his torn labrum were pretty nasty. So he is not expected to be back anytime soon. But his attitude, as we would expect, was very, very good.
Prior to coming to St. Louis, and there is Walt Jocketty and his staff here in town, but prior to coming into St. Louis, Ryan had told me that basically he was going to give it one more shot in the minor leagues, and it was John Mozeliak who reached out to Ryan and his representation and said, we'll give you a shot. He comes to the minor leagues and puts up big numbers, and John had seen him play and said, we need to take a look at this guy and see what's left in the tank. And little did we know, there was a ton. Silver Slugger, All-Star, and it's one of those cases that it's a guy that just needed a chance, and he got it and made the most of it. Here's a ground ball that's hit to second, and Paul is retired.
You know, sometimes you forget that you got that chance, and then you kind of get used to your situation, but not Ryan Ledwick. He said exactly what you said today to me. He said, how can I be upset about where I am right now? I want to be playing, but I know I got hurt earlier in my career and I thought I was done, and I'm just so grateful that I got a second shot, and I'm going to work to get another one. Just perfect attitude. And you know, Wainwright's had his share of issues too, injuries, and most notably the Tommy John. And you know, it's got to creep into your head, am I ever going to be back again?
This is Devin Mesoraco. Speaking of Tommy John, you never know. There's one guy that's had it, Jaime Garcia, and we're still in that wait and see area right now with Jason Mott, Cardinals closer. Mesoraco hits it in the air down the right field line, and it's out of play. And going back to Ludwig just for a moment, you know, he had some odd injuries too early in his career when he was hit by a pitch and a wrist injury. He also had a knee injury, so there were different ailments that he dealt with along the way. And clearly, he's got talent, and he showed it off here in St. Louis. He grew up, by the way, a Reds fan. So his grandparents love the Reds, and he said it's a dream come true to be playing for Cincinnati. Reds gave him a shot last year, and somewhat of a slow start, and then a big difference maker for about 4 months of the season. The final four, and parlayed that into a nice deal. He did not hit well in San Diego, did not hit well with Pittsburgh, and the Reds took a flyer on him. The 0-2 pitch.
And the first 0-2 pitch to Mesoraco, Wainwright got away with. He hung one up in the zone, and he wasn't going to let that happen again. A little sharper on that delivery, trying to get him to chase. Mesoraco going to get the lion's share of the catching duties. Corky Miller called up from AAA to replace Hannigan. Miller, a veteran. But Mesoraco, the 2010 Minor League Player of the Year for Cincinnati.
Corky Miller has been around for 3 decades.
Feels like it.
Goes back to the days of Gookie Dawkins. Corky and Gookie, and there's somebody else in that trio that they had. You remember what I'm talking about?
I do. Some guys just have baseball names.
Pokey Reese.
Pokey.
2 balls and 2 strikes on Devin Mesoraco. It's a high draft choice by the Cincinnati Reds, 15th overall in 2007. Held on to by Yachty, and that's the second strikeout for Adam Wainwright. MLB.com at bat, the #1 source for live baseball everywhere you go. Available for iPhone, iPad, Android, and BlackBerry 10. At Bat delivers Cardinals baseball with live audio, pitch tracking, stats, news, highlights, and more. Text at bat to 31826 or visit Cardinals.com. Leadoff is hitting 167. Pretty healthy cut there.
Open stance, nice swing. Don't remember him swinging the bat that well. Perhaps he's been working on that a bit. Brooke Jacoby, their hitting coach. You know, back in the day, the hitting coach wouldn't work with the pitchers. The hitting coach Johnny Lewis was the hitting coach in the 80s for the Cardinals, and he wouldn't waste the time with us pitchers. Kind of like, you guys, you don't know what you're doing. Let somebody else work with you. So our pitching coach would actually work with us on hitting. Didn't help.
1-2 on Leadoff.
Career 119 hitter, Matt Leadoff.
Breaking ball, slowly hit. Taken there by Freese. And speaking of David Freese, he'll lead it off, trying to get things going for himself and the St. Louis Cardinals tonight. On Sunday, May 12th, 25,000 fans 16 and older receive a floppy sun hat presented by Diet Coke and Schnucks. Bring your mom to the game or pick one up for her Mother's Day weekend. That's Sunday, May 12th. Get your tickets now at cardinals.com/promotions. What a beautiful night for baseball. And David Freese will lead it off as we move to the home half of the second. It'll be Freese, Wigginton, and Cosmo. Cardinals need to get this guy going. He's hitting 178. No home runs, and he's driven in 3.
You pick one Cardinal you'd like to get hot, it'd be this guy. David can carry the team offensively when he is hot, and it also seems that he can be kind of a trigger for other players around him to swing the bat better. You just kind of always have this sense when David's hitting, Alan Craig's hitting, and everybody else in the lower part of the lineup, and Molina, I think he can really jumpstart the offense. And really, he's had some awful at-bats for David Freese, and he would be the first to agree with that. In fact, he says he's just not seeing the ball. Seems like he's late in his recognition of the pitch, and he's kind of having a lot of kind of emergency hacks, we call them, where you're just kind of sticking the bat out and hit the ball the other way, and that's not driving it.
1 ball and 1 strike. He's a leadoff man here in the second inning. So he chops it towards third. And there's 1 away. Get to the ballpark today, and you see the name of Ty Wigginton in that lineup. So Carlos Beltran sits tonight. Craig moves out to right field. And you have Ty Wigginton at first base tonight. Hitting just 167 on the year. No home runs, and he's driven in 1 RBI. popped up. Messeracco is running out of room, about 3 or 4 rows deep in the green seats. 1 ball, 1 strike. Wigginton hits it sharply to third. 2 outs. So 2 outs and nobody on, and it brings in Pete Kozma. Never understood why the first baseman falls back when he's catching that ball right there. Well, instead of stretching forward and just getting himself out of the way.
Well, I think what you're doing is, you know, the ball's going to clear the runner. You're trying to make sure you clear the runner. And part of the reason is you want to make sure you don't get caught catching the ball on top of the base if it's offline a bit. And if you get caught catching the ball on top of the base and the runner eventually runs through you, I mean, you end up being in a vulnerable position. And you only do that when the throw is there in plenty of time.
Sure.
We saw Albert Pujols early in his career stretch out with his left hand towards the left on a throw that was towards the infield side of the bag, and the runner ran into him and hurt his elbow. And that's a classic baseball injury, and he was taught to stop doing that.
1 ball and 2 strikes. Check swing, and he did go. Strikeout of Pete Kozma. Number 2 on the night for Matt Latos. Top of the lineup due up for Cincinnati when we come back. Brought to you by Schnucks, your neighborhood hometown grocer. Steel, available exclusively at a servicing Steel dealer. Visit steeldealers.com. And the Chipotle Chicken Club combo is back for a limited time at Jack in the Box. Try one today with fries and a drink for just $4.99 plus tax. Rick, we've had a lot of people here at the ballpark, also on Twitter, asking us about Mitchell Boggs. And Mike Matheny said today that yesterday afternoon was as close to right as he's been. Now, he also said, I understand the media, no one is going to agree with that. However,
and he was quick to say that.
Yes, he was. And Mike, though, they looked at tape. They also watched, obviously, during the game, and they felt that his stuff wasn't bad. And you know, you think about the near strikeout, the little blue pit. A lot of things have gone wrong that if maybe a pitch or two goes right, we're talking about a different looking Mitchell Boggs.
There's no defending the results of Mitchell Boggs so far. That's not what we're talking about. I will say, if he'd had the 7 or 8 games that he's had recently in the middle of the season, we might not be talking about it, because when you have a bad start, it gets magnified, because that is your ERA. That's your whole season. But you have a decent start, you have a few 6 or 7 or 8 bad games in the middle, and your ERA goes from 2 to 4. Nobody really kind of pushes the same panic button yet. But you know, Mitch has got to figure it out, and he's got to make better pitches. No doubt about that. But we did see him throwing downhill and with good sink and good movement and good velocity on, let's say, a handful of pitches. And I think that's what Mike's talking about. Not enough, because when you come out of the bullpen, you can't make mistakes. You don't have room to make mistakes. You throw 15 pitches in a game, 14 of them better be good.
So Zach Cozart, the second man in their lineup. Sacrifice back in the first. That is off the glove of Cosma, and a base hit by his counterpart at short. Turn to our keys to the game, a presentation of Toyota. We turn to big number 50, Adam Wainwright, in our keys to the game.
Good command of Wainwright, the 37 strikeouts, best in the National League. The ratio also best in the National League. Cincinnati Reds pitching 107 walks, most in the National League. It's surprising. The Reds have also given up the most home runs in the National League, and the Cardinals have given up the least.
One out and a runner at first.
And a lot of that, Dan, has to do with the ballpark they pitch in.
And both bullpens really haven't been that good this year. It's not just you know, the Cardinals that have had their issues. Cincinnati has had some issues as well.
Not as big a discrepancy, but the starters for the Reds, much better ERA than their relievers, just like the Cardinals. Reds at 3.08 for their starting pitching, and the bullpen over 4. But the guy in the 9th inning is unhittable.
Fun to watch.
I'd rather watch him on highlights.
Yeah, I would too.
Than watch him live.
And I definitely don't want to dig in against him. Another flamethrower right there, and Jason Mott. 2 balls and no strikes here on Votto. He had a base hit to right first time up. You bring up a great point about Votto earlier, where he just will not expand his zone. Now, I'm going to bring a little money into this. You know, he's not paid to walk. He is paid to drive the baseball, to drive in runs, and be a premier hitter, which he is. So you have to wonder, you know, the value of a Joey Votto, and it's great if you walk 100+ times and your on-base percentage is high, but are you more valuable hitting 30 home runs and driving in 100+?
I think it's a great question.
The 2-1 pitch.
And part of the answer is, if you do expand your zone as a hitter, do you really produce like you think you would? And some hitters have the ability to do that. And I would say, I'd like to see him, if he was my guy, expand the zone at times, and to be disciplined enough to know that this is a situation where we need his RBI potential. We don't need a walk. We want you to be our guy, but not every at bat.
Big pitch here, 3-1, and Votto hits it to second. Double play for 6-3. A 3-1 pitch turns into a double play. And you'll get a Loge level ticket and a free Cardinals tank top. First college night is tomorrow, so get your tickets at cardinals.com/college. Adam Wainwright will lead it off for the Cardinals. Home half of the third rolls in, followed by Jay and Carpenter.
Wainwright wearing that thumb guard. First guy I ever saw wear that thumb guard was Tommy Herr. In fact, he was trying to patent it in the mid-'80s and was talking to an inventor on the East Coast about it being named after him. And he would wear a little thing just like that on his thumb to protect against being jammed.
Tommy Herr, the former second baseman, your former teammate. And at last check, what has Tommy been up to? I know he was in coaching.
Coach for a long time. His kids both played minor league baseball for a number of years, and Tom lives in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, same place Bruce Sutter is from originally.
Couple of hops to second. Brandon Phillips. One away, and we turn to tonight's AT&T Twitter poll. What quality do you want most in a leadoff hitter? Interesting question here. Walks a lot. Long at bats. You want to see pitches, especially that first at bat. You want speed and the steals. How about power? The combination that Ricky Henderson had, arguably the greatest ever to lead off.
And we understand with our Twitter poll today that you'd like to have all of them, but we're asking you to pick one. You can't have them all, just one.
I'm going to go with on-base percentage. Especially if you have kind of lineup that both these teams do. Guys like Votto and Phillips and Holiday. Now Molina's a threat. Alan Craig, David Freese when he's right. Get somebody on and drive them in.
I don't want to influence our Twitter voters just yet. Hold that thought.
Jay, the first time up, walked the 0-2.
And the influence I mean is many will just be contrarian. Whatever I say, they'll vote the other way. So we'll give them a chance to think about it.
No, that never happens on Twitter. Here's a 1-2 pitch, and he's hit by a breaking ball. Second time that John Jay is aboard. A walk and now hit by pitch. We're at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. Glad you're with us on Fox Sports Midwest. Dan McLaughlin, Rick Elhort, and Jim Hayes. Talked to Matt Carpenter at the cage today, and I said, if you're hitting leadoff, do you change your approach at all? You know, that they're asking you to do something that you're typically, well, at least you haven't been asked to do in the past at the pro level. And he said, not at all. And I followed that up by saying, well, is that because you take a lot of pitches? He said, that's part of it. He said, I actually like hitting deep into a count. So I will be seeing a lot of pitches no matter if I'm hitting first or eighth.
And that's a style question. And some guys get anxious when they swing at the first pitch, or they feel like they're putting the first pitch in play. We see Beltran do that a lot. He's comfortable with that. First ball hitting early in Albert Pujols' career, we bring his name up again. He was really good at hitting that first pitch, and he liked to do it. As he got later in his years in St. Louis, he started to like the deeper counts a little more. And I think sometimes it's just being able to see and kind of work the pitcher to the pitch you want to get. But there are many hitters, a lot of pinch hitters, that believe that that first pitch is the one that they feel most comfortable swinging at.
Here's a 2-0 pitch. And it's 3-0. I've talked to John Mabry a lot about his philosophy with hitting, and one of the things that he talked about that he learned as being a pinch hitter, he said, look, you always hear pitchers say, I want to dominate the strike zone, or I want this side of the plate. He says, how come a hitter doesn't say, this is my side of the plate? And he said, you know, you've got so much room, take one half and understand that if you get a pitch in that half, go hack it. That's your pitch. There's a walk after he hit a man. Matt Holliday lined out his first time up. Good chance here for the Cardinals. Barnes Jewish Hospital difference maker since 2009. Look at those ranks and what Matt Holliday has done. 2009 is when he arrived on the scene here in St. Louis. Trails Albert in the RBI department by 3. Runners at first and second with 1 down. I could tie him up with 1 swing of the bat. Holliday bounces it to short. They'll get the lead man. That's Jay. Really a pretty easy play there for Cozart. Momentum taking him that way. They get the lead man, and there's 2 down. Still waiting for that first home run from Alan Craig, and I'm sure he's sick of hearing about that. He has, though, driven in 18. Craig has been so good with runners in scoring position, back-to-back seasons, 400 hitter. And this year, even better, 444 with 17 of the 18 RBIs with runners in scoring position.
Always been a good RBI guy. The power has not come yet.
I asked Mike Matheny about it. I said, what separates Craig from others in this spot? He said he has the ability to take himself to a different level where others cannot. He said he's just an elite pressure RBI player, which was interesting to hear that he called him elite in that regard.
Nice thing to have your manager say about you.
You bet. Pulls it foul, 1 ball and 1 strike. He said when the stakes are raised a little bit, he said, I'm not sure there's anybody else I want at the plate other than the man right now, Alan Craig.
Reggie Jackson, Kirk Gibson. Think of Lou Brock that way.
One pitch to Craig. Reaches for it, hits it to Frazier, force play at second. And the Cardinals are through. St. Louis is stranded 4 on the night. in Oakville, Missouri. Good question tonight. Do pitchers today have to pitch to their strengths or the umpire's zone? Carsoup.com. And before we answer that question, it's 1-0 Cincinnati as Phillips will dig in. And Rick, there was a lot of talk about umpires the last couple of days, in particular with Tom Hallion and Mr. Price of Tampa Bay. Those two got into it, and a lot of talk afterwards about the strike zone and the lack of strikes called. So, your era different than what we're watching today? What's the answer to that question?
Well, and some would say better, some would say worse, but the difference is that the umpires are being judged against Quest Tech and the reality of what the technology is showing to be the real strike zone. So umpires are judged every night. They get a DVD every night. How did they do? And they get evaluated every single game they do behind the plate based on the real strike zone that is handled electronically. So it used to be that the umpires would have a bit of a feel for a pitcher like Wainwright, who's trying to hit corners, or this corner is pitching in or pitching at the knees, and they would kind of adapt the strike zone to what the pitcher was doing. So to answer that question is the pitcher now has to pitch to the real strike zone, and some would say that's good, some would say it's not.
0-2 the count on Phillips. Walked his first time up.
And there would be times where it's 12-4 in the 9th inning of a game on getaway day, and everybody in the ballpark would know that the zone was getting bigger. But now they can't do that. They just have to call it the way it is. And it was almost a common sense move to say that the umpire who could have some, let's say, leeway, and that leeway is gone.
Solid single. The bat of Phillips. Took a pitch that was close, extended the at bat, and then drives a single up the middle.
In on him, but he's still able to get the bat head on it. He's still got the good part of the bat on it. He kept his hands inside the ball, and that's a tough pitch to hit. That really separates the outstanding hitters, that they're able to still hit a ball hard. That's a good fastball in on their hands, and Brandon Phillips handled that perfectly. He kept his hands in, and then he still was able to stroke it up the middle, and that's not a get me over fastball from Wainwright.
Here's Jay Bruce. Now, just like you, at least I would like to think so, I absolutely adore, love the game of baseball. I love it.
I know that.
Love watching it, love the intricacies, the strategy.
I feel a butt coming.
Well, here's the deal. A lot of fans will say to us, and I think it's a valid concern, and we've heard about it a ton, as this is chopped towards second. Tough to turn to. Can they? Out there on to first. No way. Not with the speed of Bruce. They do get the lead man.
Trade the base runners.
But you think about the strike zone, and if it is bigger and truly called the way it's supposed to be called in the rule book, you would have the time of games sped up. Players would make the adjustment. These are the best in the world at what they do. This is Todd Frazier who digs in. And the biggest thing I hear from fans is that, my son or daughter doesn't want to play because it's too slow. They love hockey, they got football, you've got basketball, you've got video games, whatever the case may be. Now, to me, that's the beauty of the sport.
I agree.
One of the beauties. However, to appeal to the masses, and especially a younger generation of fans that will carry this game through, you wonder if you have to start looking at ways to somehow speed up the game. For instance, Frazier steps out, getting a sign, adjusting, now finally steps in, where many times a guy like Votto just stays in the box. I love that. You're there to hit, get in the box. Here's the 0-1 pitch.
Well, I think the baseball reality of what the game really is, Dan, is, if you have a plane to catch, don't go to a baseball game. and don't bring your watch to a baseball game. It is not a game where we're looking at the clock and shouldn't be. But yet I know we feel that way. But when young kids play baseball, they play hour and 15-minute games. Yep. So they're on a clock. They're training that way, and they're thinking that way.
Runner goes, and it's tapped up the first base line, but rolls foul.
And sometimes that's just because the pitchers are having trouble throwing strikes, and you'll be there all night if you don't. But to be trained, I think, to enjoy that aspect of the game, that it's kind of a timeless game. It's where you can just get lost in the game and get lost in your connection with your family at the game, keep score, get the popcorn. I don't care what time it is. I think that's part of what people love about this game and being at the ballpark, in my view.
Hey, I'm just bringing it up.
Yeah,
I'm one of those that loves it.
No, I agree.
Here's a 1-2 pitch. But I think that the point being is that it's the younger generation.
Yeah.
You know, the kids of today. And not all are like that. Some truly love the game of baseball. And
you think those ladies care what time it is?
Well, that's the thing. When you're at the ballpark, I don't ever hear anybody complain.
A couple of them don't know who's at the plate right now. Who cares?
There's a fly ball lifted to deep right, and it is over the head of Craig. Bruce on his way to third. He'll stop there. Opposite field, and a double for Todd Frazier. He's 1 for 2 on the night, and it brings in Xavier Paul.
This could prove to be a big hit in this game, as Frazier, who's shown a lot of power, takes it the other way over the head of Alan Craig, and Bruce had to hold up. He wasn't sure if Craig was going to catch that ball, and just really took off into that corner, and he has to stay at third. And again, we mentioned trading Brandon Phillips for Jay Bruce on the base pass. That was a good deal for the Cardinals. Otherwise, it'd be 2-0 right now.
The corners are in for St. Louis. Here's Xavier Paul. Runners at second and third. Ground ball that's pulled foul. Again, Ty Wigginton a start at first base tonight. Freese over at third. If you're wondering about Matt Adams, news is good on Adams. He'll go on a rehab assignment Thursday and Friday. And next Tuesday, the Cardinals will activate him, and they feel that there will be no issues with that, especially with the weather warming up. Cardinals will be on the road, and Adams should be with the team next Tuesday. Here's the 0-1 pitch. So Matt Adams dealing with that sore oblique, and this is something that they've been working on constantly. Matt Adams around the bag, and Jose Oquendo was telling me that for a big guy, he said, don't overlook Matt Adams defensively. We feel he's going to be a pretty good defensive player. Soft hands around the bag. The weight loss has helped him.
Love the teaching there too. Jose showing him, you watch what I do, and then I'm going to watch what you do. And Jose teaches infield play as well as anybody that I've seen in baseball. Perry Hill's kind of the other guru infield coach. He's with the Marlins, but he and Jose are very well respected and should be.
1-2 the count.
And what Jose does very early, when he says somebody can do it, he spots whether or not a guy has soft hands or not, and he can spot whether somebody has good range. And there's only so much you can do to get a player from A to B, but if anybody can do it, it's Jose.
One-two pitch, fouled back.
The other thing about Jose is he played multiple positions with the Cardinals, played all infield positions, with an outfielder at times, and now he's talking about how to make a throw to second base. And you can't just take for granted that Matt Adams has really thought through all of the details about where you are in the field and how you might position your feet. And Jose being very, very specific about the spot on the infield that he'd be throwing from on a 3-6-3 double play there.
And that's hit out of play. What kind of teammate was Jose?
Oh, he's awesome. Outstanding teammate. You know, my thought of Jose, every time you see him at the ballpark, guys used to do this in the day. They would wear kind of those rubber suits to go run, and I would watch Jose running around the ballpark. He'd be the first one at the ballpark, and he would run for 4 or 5 miles. He was a runner, and he would run a lot. He actually ran a marathon, I think, in Puerto Rico at one point. But he was always the first guy there.
And that's on the turf, the old turf, from Stadium 2.
Oh, yeah.
Hot St. Louis summer. You and I have played a lot of golf with Jose, and he still has those soft hands. I'm not sure about the reactions, but the soft hands are pretty good. Hey, Mott, you're not playing right now.
Watch the game.
Help
Protect
me out. He's not happy.
Well, he's not happy because his team's losing 1-0.
Here's a 1-2 pitch. Breaks his bat. That goes flying into the seats over the Cardinal dugout, and a run will score. That winds up about 4 or 5 rows deep behind the Cardinal dugout. Scary stuff right there as the run does come in to score.
Well, I'm glad, Dan, you saw where the ball went, because I couldn't bear to watch the ball. I was concerned about the bat. Right in on the hands of Paul. It's an RBI. And fortunately, looks like nobody's hurt over there behind the Cardinals dugout.
Intentional walk of Mesoraco, and they will put Matt Latos on. Put him on the spot with 2 runners on. So the Cardinals trail by the score of 2-0.
You watch. Careful who you're coaching there, Jason.
I'm telling you, I've seen that face from Jose. He's not happy.
No. He's tolerating him?
Yeah, tolerating is the right way to put it. He's saying, will you please put this guy in the bullpen and away from me right now? Runners at first and third with 2 down, and Matt Latos at the plate. Fastball at a strike.
We had an infield one year where Jose was playing a lot of first base, and we had, I think that was the year we had Tommy Herr at second and Terry Pendleton at third, and we had 4 switch hitters on the infield. I mean, there wasn't a power hitter in that lot.
Took a lot of ground balls and made those outs instead of base hits. Pretty good defense.
You bet.
Well, the Cardinals yesterday shut out for the 3rd time this season, 9-0. They have not scored a run tonight, and things just seem a little flat. Even Mike Matheny addressed that after the game yesterday. One of the club's flat performances. There haven't been many this year. But as he said, this team is grinding, and
you know, when you're not hitting, we've
always
discussed this many times. That's exactly right. How can you look excited when you ground out to second base? It's just not an exciting play in baseball. So when you're not hitting, you are flat.
Strike 2 on Latos. Matchups for the series are very good. Jaime Garcia, Bronson Arroyo tomorrow. Garcia easily could be 4-1 if not for a couple of blown saves. And then you have Lance Lynn 4-0. Homer Bailey 1-2. Bailey was roughed up in the previous day game earlier this month against St. Louis, and Lance Lynn racking up the strikeouts and the wins. There's a strikeout for Wainwright, but the Reds add to their lead. Home half of the 4th coming up, and Yachty trying to jumpstart the offense when we come back. delicious. Say good morning to the new Egg White Delight McMuffin with just 250 calories. Now just $1 at McDonald's.
Then it must be so.
Oh, you got to take it in, he says. Hey, a happy second birthday to A.J. Sheritz. Celebrating with a little cake tonight, dressed up in his Cardinal uniform and celebrating his second birthday.
Now, does that young man right there care what time it is?
Well, I'm not sure he knows anything about his life at this point, much less the time. But yes, you're right.
But he's just enjoying being at the ballpark, which I just love that about this game. I really do.
God bless Mom.
She may be having second thoughts.
About the husband or the kids? I know my wife's response.
You better move on.
Yep. 2-0 lead for Cincinnati, and here is Yadier Molina. How about a double-A today? Xavier Scruggs, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs. He now has 7 homers this year.
That's a name that keeps popping up.
Yep.
We've seen him on the website with plus days offensively multiple times.
There's a base hit for Molina. Also making that start today was Carlos Martinez, and I know a lot of fans are asking about Carlos. He is getting very close, Rick, to either a promotion or, talking about being in that conversation of maybe being brought up to the big leagues. This replay brought to you by Hyundai, and to his credit, even though he had the visa issues, came in great shape. They thought they'd have him at an extended spring. That's not the case. So he's been pitching at Double-A and gave up a home run today, but 5 innings of really good baseball.
Well, the visa issue is very frustrating. We talked about Manus being able to impress in spring training, and Martinez wasn't able to because he wasn't there. And it's good that he's done what you said, came in ready to go. And there'll be a time, there's some arms down in that Cardinal system that we'll see eventually. I don't think we have to rush that. Eventually they'll be here. A couple of them need to continue to develop, and I think he's one of them.
In the dirt to David Freese. Speaking of spring training, his was cut short. And now looking back on it, you would think that it was probably a wise move. It's easy to say this now, but to not have Freese activated for opening day, and that's such a hard thing to do. David Freese, one of the most popular players, World Series hero, hometown kid. He wants to play, but in retrospect now, he's trying to get his timing down, and it's become an issue. His average is at 174, and the spring training issue was that he struggled to get that timing down because of injury. And
he was ready to go. We thought one game that we were televising in spring training, and it was going to be his coming out party after being hurt by hurting his back, running into a railing on the third base side towards the dugout, and kind of bothered him for a while. And we thought he was going to come back, and it got aggravated, and so he wasn't able to do it, and that's why it kept getting pushed back. And a back issue is no fun for anybody. But for a hitter, is it still affecting him? I mean, I think that's a question you have to ask. Is he as limber? Is he as comfortable? And yeah, it's a matter of timing, Dan. But yeah, you want him there for opening day, but maybe they could have had him on the DL a little bit longer even. Maybe that couple more starts in AAA. Yeah.
Could have extended him down there a little bit more.
And again,
easier said than done now, but
no question.
You can understand all the reasons as to why they wanted him as he strikes out. So Freese is 0 for 2, and it brings in Ty Wigginton.
Curveball 77 miles an hour, and that's just not good pitch recognition for David Freese. He did not see the spin on it. If he knows it's a curveball, he doesn't swing at that pitch because he knows the spin is downward. He knows it's going to break. He knows it's going to essentially hit the plate, which it did. But he couldn't stop his swing in time.
Ty Wigginton grounded out sharply first time up.
Look, this is a tough game.
And trying to get your timing back at this level.
Yeah, the pitcher's not helping you.
No. I mean, within this week you're facing Leadoff and Steven Strasburg, and you know, guys that are some of the best. And
well,
right now Freese is clearly not himself.
With all the folks kind of piling on the Cardinals bullpen right now, I think it's still good to remember that they're one of the best 750 pitchers on the planet. You know, each team, actually not even 750, the best 750 players on the planet. You're talking about pitchers only, 250 big league pitchers. So they're elite, but they're struggling.
2 balls and 1 strike. Two and 2 on Ty Wigginton. One of the names that keeps popping up all the time is Michael Wacha, who's just been sensational down in the minor leagues.
Now we're hearing a lot about John Gast as well.
And a reason that Gast is not here, and the Cardinals were looking for a long man. He's a starter just like Manus, but he pitched yesterday. So Gast was off to a great start. AAA. Cardinals thought about it, but he would have been unavailable basically for this series. He is a starter. He pitched yesterday, so Manus is here. And not Gast. It's all about timing.
How fun is that to be sitting out in a bullpen taking in your first big league game? You know, Seth Manus has been at the ballpark how many days in his life, but he's never had a day like this one. Everything is clear, everything is magnified, everything is intensified, and I mean,
none of his food stayed down.
The joy, but he's feeling a joy too. I mean, just this is a big deal for him, and congratulations to Seth.
Slowly hit towards third. Frazier bare hands. Nice play. How good was that? Todd Frazier, nice play down at third with more on Manus. Let's check in with Jim.
Yeah, he said he had no idea that he was about to be called up until he got the news from his manager. And I asked him the feeling of walking into the Cardinal clubhouse, big smile on his face. Dan, he said, kid in a candy store, kid in a candy store. He was elated.
And it's not like, you know, he's walking into a clubhouse that's foreign to him, because he knows these guys from spring training, so there's a familiarity, at least in that regard, but certainly nothing like this, sitting out in the bullpen in a major league game.
And we have good affiliates in Memphis and in Springfield, so he's used to top-notch organizations that are run well, but there's an electricity about being in front of 50,000 people in the big leagues that is different. I mean, you know that everything that he does today on the mound, the whole country can know about, and watch the highlights and get on MLB.com, and you know, they're probably not going to check Memphis. It's just a fact. And you add to that the fact that it's no doubt a lifelong dream of his to someday be a big leaguer.
And the runner goes from second, and an easy steal. No surprise. Who else? Yadier Molina.
Smart base runner, takes a couple leads, and then after those steps just takes off, steals that on Leadoff. We've seen Yadi do that many times. So here's an issue. When Yadi gets that kind of jump, what does the third baseman do? Does he cover in case there's a throw? He knows that Yadi's going. He's the only one, but he said, never mind, no sense in going. And you just got to hope at that point that the catcher sees that you're not there.
Two balls and one strike. Wainwright is on deck. Cardinals in this spot elected to pitch around Mesoraco to get to Leadoff, but Wainwright is a much different hitter than Matt Leadoff.
And the Reds have a 2-0 lead.
That's another reason. The 2-2. Kozma strikes out, fastball at 93 and caught looking. Ty Wigington is 0 for 2 tonight. Hit a bullet the first time to Frazier. That time he got him on the slow roller.
With just 2 hits, Wainwright and Leadoff, and Leadoff gets away with a pitch here. You notice the up and in location from Mesoraco, and this is the last pitch to end the 5th inning. He doesn't hit that spot, but you know what? He hit another pretty good spot down and away, and a called 3rd strike on Pete Kozma. One of 4 strikeouts for Leadoff here tonight. Our charter high-speed pitch. Leadoff hitting 93 miles an hour, Wainwright 94. Both pitchers with good stuff. Here tonight, Wainwright touched for a run in the 1st as well as 1 in the 4th. He's given up 5 hits.
Want to remind everybody that tomorrow's Cardinals game will air on Fox Sports Midwest Plus in the St. Louis area and on an alternate channel on DirecTV, Dish and Uverse, due to the overlap with Game 1 of the Kings and Blues. So good luck to the St. Louis Blues, Game 1 of their series against the defending Stanley Cup champions. And we should mention that if you're wanting tickets, plenty of seats available, I understand, for games 1 and 2 for the Blues. So just head to their website right now, stlouisblues.com, to get those seats for games 1 and 2, the Blues and Kings, beginning tomorrow night. To his left, Carpenter makes the play. Shin Soo Choo is out number 1.
Again, swinging at the first pitch. High on-base percentage we talked about. He doubled and scored in that 1st inning, and he did that swinging at the first pitch.
You ready for my prediction?
I'm not sure. Do I have to commit whether I'm ready or not?
No, because it's going to come your way anyway.
So I might be ready.
I'm going with the Blues in 6. Blues in 6.
Outstanding. That's a lot of applause here in our booth from all of the folks helping us out here, and I, for one, am very excited about the playoffs. I love watching the Blues.
It's awesome.
They're really just such a great product, and we know just how good the Blues fans here are in St. Louis. We love the Cardinal fans, but the Blues fans are just as rabid and just as supportive of the Blue Note.
Cozart grounds out to Kozma, 2 away. Blues added their 2 big defensemen. They've got hot goaltending here down the stretch and home ice advantage. They played well down the stretch at Scott Trade Center. Blues in 6. Ricky is online right now booking a ticket to Vegas based on my prediction. Unbelievable.
You know your hockey, Dan.
Well, I don't know about that. I'm just going Blues in 6.
I think I'm going to ask David Freese. Is that all right? That won't hurt your feelings?
Now, he knows his hockey.
Yes, he does.
As Joey Votto digs in. 1 ball, 1 strike. Votto got it started with a single and an RBI in the first. Also bounced into a 4-6-3 double play. Blues in the early 2000s. As Wainwright gets a new baseball, they were loaded. That team should have won the Stanley Cup. Had a couple of teams that could have won the Stanley Cup. But then there's this thing called goaltending. And if you don't have that, you don't win.
Is it kind of like having a bullpen? Kind of the same thing?
Kind of like that. Here's a 2-1 pitch. Good pitch. 2-2. I mean, you can go to your, best Rick Pitino, because I'll tell you right now, Horton, Grant Fuhrer ain't walking through that door. Okay.
That's your speech. That's your pregame speech.
So get it done.
I'll see if I can get you in there.
Do you know the speech I'm referring to?
Yeah, I do.
It's one of the all-timers. Rick Pitino was the head coach of the Boston Celtics, and, well, he was struggling. And I hate to tell you, folks, Larry Bird is not walking through that door. Robert Parrish is not walking. Kevin McHale. So I'm just going to say, let's get some goaltending and the Blues win.
I'm motivated.
Positive reinforcement. There's a line out. Positioning is perfect as Freese makes the play. It's a 1-2-3 inning. Just head to stlouisblues.com. Cards and Reds here on Fox Sports Midwest, and a 2-run lead for Matt Latos and Cincinnati as we move to the home half of the 5th. It's Wainwright, Jay, and Carpenter for St. Louis. The Cardinals just 2 base hits tonight.
You mentioned Wainwright swinging the bat better than Latos in his career, but he's certainly been doing that this year, Dan. Last year, Adam did not have a good year at the plate, and we're kind of guessing that it may have had something to do with his injury and kind of rehabbing that. Maybe not just the timing, but even the sensitivity of, does he really feel right to just air out the swing? But he's been really swinging the bat well. The average at .214, but you can just kind of tell he's back to being more comfortable taking full hacks at the plate.
A 1-0 pitch. It's popped up, and Phillips calls for it. From Brandon Phillips, look at how good this is going to work. This is just an unbelievable segue by Mike Kelly.
Nice.
Phillips 66. What a great deal on Cardinals tickets. Fill up at Phillips 66 with 8 gallons or more. Now until June 30th. Receive up to 50% off on a pair of tickets to a Cardinals home game. For more information, visit cardinals.com/Phillips66. How much money Brandon Phillips could make if he changed his number to 66?
And all baseball fans everywhere say he's already making enough.
Just saying. Just trying to be a marketing genius up here.
Hockey predictor, marketing genius. Doing it all.
Yep, go ahead and mortgage the kids' college fund. Blues in 6. Heard it here first. One ball, one strike on John Jay. On base twice with a walk, and he's also been hit by a pitch. Really took something off that pitch.
I think the decision to put him back in that leadoff spot here today has a lot to do with the success we talked about against Leadoff. There's a curveball, no success on that particular pitch, but 9 for 20 in his career. He's been on base twice. You mentioned a walk and a hit by pitch.
How about Michael Wacha tonight through 4 innings, no runs, ERA now at 1.67. Checking up on the Memphis Redbirds. John Mozeliak asked about Michael Wacha. Was he thought of as a guy that could be brought up right now? And he said, look, do we think this guy is going to be a stud and a star? Yes. Very similar to what we've seen from Adam Wainwright, his makeup, even the look of the two. We think he's going to be very, very good. But he said you have to keep in mind, think about Adam Wainwright, nearly 4.5 years in the minor leagues before being called up. He said, you look at Lance Lynn, couple of years plus in the minor leagues before being called up. He said, we just don't want to bury him. He's getting better and better and better. Let him have success, and then, hey, he's only a phone call away if we need him.
Wainwright had those years in the minor leagues because he also signed younger. That's part of it. And Wacha was a guy that played some college baseball, played a lot of college baseball. And so he signed at a later age, and so you'd think they could rush him quicker, but still the experience, still important. You're trying to judge your needs versus the pitcher's developmental needs, especially if they're a guy that's going to be a big impact guy.
Phillips backhands and takes the hit away. What's on tap? It's the Cards and Reds tomorrow. And we'll see the pitchmaker Bronson Arroyo racking up the innings yet again this season. Budweiser, what's on tap? Cards Reds, 6:30 tomorrow. Fox Sports Midwest Plus. Basically, that's a season that he has pitched against St. Louis. Do you see those numbers? 32 starts he has made against the Cardinals.
Some good ones and some bad ones in there. Arroyo is certainly a competitor. And he's fun to watch pitch to me. Very different than Leadoff here. Leadoff's more of a power guy. Arroyo's a finesse guy, all kinds of arm angles and movement, change-ups, curveballs.
And there's a base hit to right. Matt Carpenter, a 2-out base hit.
No batting gloves. Matt Carpenter. Got a fastball to his liking.
Holiday's due, isn't he? 2 home runs this year. Lined out to right, also grounded into a fielder's choice. He represents the tying run here in the home half of the 5th. Ground ball, left side, base hit. The Cardinals back-to-back singles. And it brings in Alan Craig with 2 outs and 2 on.
Matt Holliday finds a hole. He hits a lot of ground balls through the infield hard. One of those sabermetric stats that's kind of growing in popularity, and I've often talked about it being misused a bit, but it's called BABIP, which is batting average of balls in play, which is meant, some say, to talk about the luck that a hitter experiences. To me, it's a good indication of just how hard they hit the ball and how well they're able to find holes because they hit the ball through the infield with that good top spin and just drive the ball, and that's what Holliday does.
2 outs and 2 on for Alan Craig. Big gap in left center field.
Situation just for Alan Craig, isn't it?
2 outs, runners in scoring position. This is it. 0-1 pitch. Now 0-2. That first pitch may have been the one that Alan Craig would love to have back.
Yeah, not happy about swinging at that second pitch, and he kind of grabbed his bat in frustration after the swing. You don't see too much emotion out of Alan Craig, and I mean that in a good way. You don't see him really kind of lose his cool ever, and he was not happy with himself clearly on that last pitch. It was a ball out of the zone, and chased it.
Little chopper up the middle. Phillips diving for the bag and got it. Again, Brandon Phillips saving a run. He's done that for the second time tonight. First time was to his left. This one, the backhand to his right. And he beats Holliday to the second base bag. This season, they've added StubHub fan rewards so you can get extra with your tickets and your purchase, like seat upgrades. So head to StubHub and get your Cardinals tickets today. Along with Rick Horton, Jim Hayes, I'm Dan McLaughlin. Good ball game tonight. Cardinals trailing 2-0 as we move to the 6th inning here in St. Louis. And no surprise, Brandon Phillips right in the middle of things, Rick, especially with his glove.
Well, he can hurt you with the glove as much as he can with the bat. We've seen him do it both ways. He can do it with his legs too. He runs well. 2-time All-Star, 3-time Gold Glover.
And the first pitch is taken for a strike. Following his last start, as Phillips has walked in single tonight, talked to Wainwright about what he does in his motion. And you'll notice at times he'll have the pause at the top. Other times it's more of a fluid motion with no pause. And right there, it didn't even go to the top, which is something that has changed a bit.
And there are times you mentioned where he'd go much further over his head, and that's really getting out of vogue. Pitchers, old-time pitchers, I mean, way back used to go way over their head, but that's really kind of a wasted movement, and sometimes can tie you up and get you too late in your delivery. Over his head there.
Backhanded by Wainwright. Nice play. He's won a Gold Glove before.
He's athletic on the mound, no question.
Wainwright's thought process in doing that, he said, look, we always try to vary up our pitches with speeds. Why not try to vary the delivery to the plate?
I think it makes a lot of sense. Tom Seaver used to do that. Hall of Famer. There are times where he'd even double pump. We've seen Wainwright do that, where he'd double pump, he'd go up and then go up again. Again, it's all meant to throw off the timing of the hitter.
Al and I talked about it too. His index finger, haven't seen that up as much on the breaking ball. I asked him in Washington about that. He says, I don't even know. He said, it's all feel. If I go into the glove and I don't have the right grip, it may pop up, that index finger that we've seen at times with the breaking ball. And he said other times it doesn't. Just all about feel. Interesting that he has not gone over his head a few times tonight. Other times he has. Usually you never see that.
No. And you want to make sure what you're doing is you're not kind of developing a habit of doing it on a particular pitch. You go over the head on the fastball, you don't on the curveball, or vice versa. And I think Wainwright's trying to maybe play a little cat and mouse game with him because he knows what he's doing. Trying to give the umpire, Paul Nart, our home plate umpire, a little bit of time here.
I believe he just said, thank you.
Painful. Wouldn't want to be Paul Nart right now. Gritting his teeth.
One out and nobody on, and here's an 0-2 pitch to Jay Bruce. For Wainwright, it is strikeout number 4 on the night. Pitch count is up to 85.
Molina wants it up. He's asking for it up in the zone against the left-handed hitting Bruce, and that's exactly where it goes. Just out of the zone. Bruce can't lay off of that, and he can't hit it. Wainwright, Dan, we've talked about it. And really, it started in spring training with Rob Johnson, the AAA catcher, who talked to Wainwright about trying to get some fastball strikeouts up in the zone.
Right.
You're talking about what an organization does to help one another. Even a guy that didn't make the ball club, but yet, as a veteran catcher, saw that Wainwright's fastball up in the zone would complement the curveball. And he should try it, and Wainwright goes right to using it, and he's been successful with it.
Here's the 0-2 pitch to Todd Frazier, taken for a ball outside. Frazier, nice ball game tonight. A couple of good plays down at third. Double back in the fourth. He's 1 for 2. Check swing and did not go. Everyone's favorite down at first, the crew chief, Angel Hernandez.
I sense some
everybody's
sarcasm.
favorite. We love them.
You're trying to love
Let's
them.
go Blues. Angel.
You're losing it, Dan. But I'm with you. I'm here to help. I'm here to help you. I do know where you're going.
where I'm going.
Yes, I do.
Trying to get something going here. Cardinals aren't scoring. Should have been a strikeout. And I can't believe you contacted Ann between innings and said, honey, put the house up. Losing 6.
I'm just backing you, Dan, is what I'm doing.
Appreciate that.
You said it. I believe it.
There it is, a strikeout for Adam Wainwright on the 2-2 pitch. Back-to-back Ks and 5 tonight for big number 50.
For the Reds, but they've also gotten some help defensively. First, it's Todd Frazier, third baseman, taking a hit away from Ty Wigginton. That was early on. Then it's Brandon Phillips getting into the act. Backhand play. And to end the last inning, up the middle against Alan Craig, the play and the dive to stop the Cardinal rally in the 5th inning. Brandon Phillips showing why he has those 3 Gold Gloves.
Ricky, you and I were talking before the game. It's been roughly about a 12-inning swing if you go back to Saturday and then yesterday. This is prior to the game tonight, and yet it feels like the club has lost 7 or 8 in a row, and that's not the case. But yet they're not hitting. But here's Molina again, base hit up the middle, and he's 2 for 3.
Yeah, I think there's almost just this degree of panic about it, Dan, and again, it's been 48 hours.
Brings in David Freese. Search for the next Fox Sports Midwest girl. And that's happening right now. Log on to foxsportsmidwest.com for details and the chance to be the next Fox Sports Midwest girl. Base hit by Molina. Here's David Freese. He's 0 for 2.
Cardinals coming off the road trip. Very good road trip. They win their first game at home. Everything's fine. Not holding Molina at first is Joey Votto. And so the relief pitching problem's not new, Dan. And I would say the lack of a full offense for the Cardinals isn't new either, but their starting pitching was just carrying them so long that I think losing a couple games here has kind of brought out the problems that the Cardinals do have. But overall, 14-10, a half game behind the Pirates, who are going to have some trouble in Milwaukee. They never play well in Milwaukee.
The numbers are unbelievable. By the way, that's Gallardo that made that start. Kelly is getting loose in case spot for Wainwright comes up. It's something like 50-10. Milwaukee is against Pittsburgh over the last say 6 years or something like that. But it's an incredible number. And Freese falls behind, 1 ball and 2 strikes. Big gap in left center field, and the outfield, the right side, not very deep. And when David Freese is right, outfield usually a little deeper, especially opposite way. He can drive the ball that way. Broken bat and a double play. 6-4-3 on the double play. Freese is 0 for 3 on the night. It brings in Ty Wigginton. Strasburg, Harvey, Gallardo, Kane, Kennedy. Some of the top pitchers in the National League throwing tonight. How about Matt Harvey? 121 pitches, but only 5 1/3.
He's been very good. Maybe as good as anybody in the National League.
Strasburg was pitching against Atlanta. He's had fits there in his career, albeit small sample size.
Gallardo up and down, Kane up and down, but very good pitchers at work tonight. Harvey's really making the Mets relevant.
Comparisons to Doc Gooden. And we saw him a couple of times against the Cardinals in spring training, and you can understand why there's hype. And Harvey was the one that was traded for Carlos Beltran. Beltran to San Francisco. I believe it was Harvey that came back. Memory serves correct. They have 2 very good young starters, Harvey being one. They have to check that just to make sure. 2 balls and no strikes with 2 outs and nobody on. 3-0. As Latos didn't like that call. Wigginton twice has grounded out to third. First time was a hard hit ball, and the second time it was Frazier barehanding it on the way in. The 3-0 pitch, and that's taken high. You can understand why Latos is shaking his head. I mean, look at those last 2 pitches, look pretty good.
Very close.
I was thinking of Zach Wheeler, by the way, instead of Harvey.
Both very good young pitchers with the Mets.
So here is Pete Cosmo.
And it's just another good reminder how your starting pitching can really influence the direction of a team. And again, a big positive for the Cardinals so far.
It's taken inside, and now Mesoraco is going to go out and just calm down Matt Latos, I'm sure.
Well, Latos, again, a little upset at a couple of the pitches that were not called strikes, so I think good timing here for Mesoraco.
Well, I don't blame him. I mean,
now
all of a sudden he's going to have to go right over the middle of the plate, Rick.
Well, and everybody knows that on the Reds, but you got to get Latos to start thinking about something else. Because if you're still mad about what happened, it's hard to deal with what's going on right now. And I know, Dan, you're not happy with the catcher going out to the mound because that's making the game longer. Not you, but those who believe that.
Correct.
Had to amend my statement.
1 ball, 1 strike. If Leadoff gets out of this, I'm sure he'll look at his young catcher and say, well done. Right time to go out and visit, calm him down. You talked about it earlier. He gets emotional, at least previously did. 1-2.
Seven-game hitting streak for Cosma on the line.
2-2. Wainwright is on deck. Mike Matheny then would have the choice of either keeping and sticking with Adam Wainwright or pulling him back, going with a pinch hitter if Cosma can reach. Here's a 2-2. Be a nice option right there.
You follow that hallway there where Beltran's standing, it goes towards the batting cage, and he has been in there getting ready for this moment. He's not just picking up the bat and ready to hit.
Little flare into right, and Bruce is over in fair territory and makes the catch. Two to nothing, 5 hits aside here at Busch Stadium. Reds and Cardinals, and it's our head and shoulders whiff package. The strikeouts for Cardinal starter Adam Wainwright.
A couple of strikeouts there on that nasty curveball. Also picks up a couple on fastballs. This one up in the zone to Jay Bruce. Wainwright doing a couple of different ways, and why the strikeout total has been so high this year for him is he's got a lot of ways to get that done. A lot of ways to finish off a hitter. Starting pitchers need to finish off batters, Dan. They need to finish off innings, and they need to finish off games. And that's Wainwright's job right now, to just keep going, keep pushing, and if the Cardinals can get some runs, he may find himself on the winning side. He's trying to pick up victory number 5.
Cardinals have stranded an awful lot of runners here tonight. Cincinnati has stranded 4. St. Louis has left 8 on.
I was taught something, Dan, to think about every start as a 3 inning game. And you pitch a 3-inning game because you don't want to think how much work you actually have down the road to throw those 120 pitches. But 3 innings, I can focus on that. Try to beat the other guy in 3 innings. And then when that's over, completely erase it from your mind, whether you won or lost, and just play that next little game. And I think the mental side of what a pitcher goes through is critical over the course of a game and a season. Because players don't really talk about the physical toll of playing this game, but the mental precision that it takes every day to focus on doing a skill that's pretty hard to do, it wears on you.
Here's the 0-2 pitch to Paul, and he strikes out. Well, that is now 3 in a row for Adam Wainwright, and 6 tonight. Ladies, it's the perfect jersey to add to your closet and show your love for the Cardinals skipper. Saturday, May 11th, 25,000 fans, 16 and older, receive an AT&T pink ladies style Mike Matheny full button-down jersey. Bring your mom to the game. Pick one up for her Mother's Day weekend. May 11th, get your tickets at cardinals.com/promotions. Fly ball into shallow right, and it's Alan Craig. Two away. Tomorrow night, the Cardinals continue their series with the Reds. Blues take on the Kings. Game 1 of the playoffs. Blues-Kings will be on Fox Sports Midwest, and Cards and Reds on Fox Sports Midwest Plus. So all you have to do to find the channel in your area, foxsportsmidwest.com. And again, there are tickets available for the Blues tomorrow night and tickets here at the ballpark.
Corey Klein has tweeted, they gave away Alan Craig's bat, but who took away the rest of the teams? Since it was Alan Craig bat day here yesterday. Pretty clever.
Well, that will be it for Matt Latos. See a pinch hitter here for the Cincinnati Reds. Who knows? That might be a good thing, as Latos has been very good, but they have a bullpen that on paper sets up very well for the Reds. Andrusik, Broxton, Chapman.
17 scoreless innings in a row now for Latos. And the pinch hitter is Donald Lutz, who has never played higher than Double-A until this moment. And he was hitting just over 200 in Double-A, but he's rated the #1 power prospect in the Reds organization.
And a ground ball that is hit to second. Time to stretch. Nice outing by Adam Wainwright again. Only 5 hits allowed, but Cardinals trail 2-0. Reds are all smiles right now with a 2-run lead. This copyrighted telecast is presented by the authority of the Cardinals and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the St. Louis Cardinals. 5 hits aside, and St. Louis is trailing by the score of 2-0. That'll be it for Adam Wainwright. Daniel Descalso will pinch hit. Then we'll be to the top of the lineup. Our Chevy call to the pen. Logan Ondrusik, the big righty, takes over.
It's been a big part of their pen the last couple of years. He is a big, tall right-hander. Here's his numbers this year. This is game number 9. And Dan, you mentioned in our open that the Reds have had trouble in their bullpen. Not the 9th inning, but the other innings. They had a real bad loss to the Pirates where they gave up runs late, and Broxton was a part of that. Trevor Rosenthal gets loose for the Cardinals. He'll have the 8th inning as Descalzo pinch hits for Wainwright.
Daniel is 0 for 1 in his career against Ondrusik. Now make it 0 for 2 as Votto steps on the bag for the out. Head back to the top of the lineup. Logan Ondrusik with a high ERA, his 9th appearance. Teams, though, only hitting .250 against him. The 7 strikeouts, only 2 walks. There's a good tight breaking ball that catches the corner for strike 1. John Jay tonight. The walk, he's been hit by a pitch and was robbed by Brandon Phillips back in the 5th. Assume that Rosenthal is coming into the game since he's warming up. And Rick, that'll be his 14th appearance. And tonight is game number 25. That's taken for a ball inside. The Cardinals again with something going here. Tying run will come to the plate. Carpenter, Twitter question presented by AT&T. What quality do you want most in a leadoff hitter? And many have voted. We appreciate that. Again, presented by AT&T, and it's speed. That's what you saw out of your teams in the 80s. The running Redbirds and Whitey Ball. So much fun to watch.
I think it's a good answer of those 4. I think, on base percentage is clearly what you want the most, which is a combination of a couple of those things and being able to hit and pick up the walk. But speed matters. You want guys that can make things happen in that first spot.
Shin-Soo Choo saw 4 pitches in his 3 at-bats in the leadoff spot tonight. So he has, though, scored a run. That was with his double back in the 1st. He came around on the RBI by Votto. 1 out, runner at 1st, and here's an 0-1 pitch to Matt Carpenter.
I think the real answer is you want a guy. The best answer, which was not one of our choices, is to have an on-base guy. Again, a combination. Choo leading the National League in that department. Get on any way you can, because then you make stress on the pitcher, which is what John Jay has done here by getting on base. Lou Brock did it for years. Lou had a combination of all of those things. Power, speed,
here's a 1-2 inside. He evens it up on Carpenter. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Getting into that territory from the Reds' point of view. This could be the game right here with what you have coming up after Carpenter. Chapman, if things go according to plan, is facing the bottom of the lineup potentially in the 9th instead of having the game on the line right here. 2-2 pitch. Spoiled.
Either way, if you get a rally, you're going to get to that spot twice anyway, because you've got 3 innings to have to deal with. And that's, Dan, your thoughts with that, of maybe bringing in the closer earlier against the tougher hitters. It's an interesting theory. The reality is, though, you're not really sure what's going to happen later.
Sure. Ooh, the 2-2 swung on and missed as he really took something off that pitch. And Andrusik gets his first strikeout.
Don't remember his breaking ball being that nasty. That's,
Me neither.
That's a big breaker, sharp. Can't lay off it.
Matt Holliday with a single last time up. He is lined out to right, also grounded into a fielder's choice. Average at 280. Andrusik 66 just doesn't have the same ring to it as Phillips 66.
Yeah, you're all over that.
This, Rick, reports out of Atlanta concerning Steven Strasburg dealing with forearm tightness. Wow.
This doesn't sound good, does it?
Nope. As Holliday reaches for it, easy play for Phillips. Cardinals through here in the 7th. Good work by Andrusik. Cincinnati on top, 2-0. Let's go to our studio. Bomberito Sports Update. Chevy called to the pen. Randy Choate is into the game. How about John Buck? That's an amazing story unfolding right now for the Mets in the first month that he's had. One of the great months ever put together by opening months by a Mets catcher.
There's a number of names in the top 10 in hitting in the National League, home runs, names you'd say, where did those guys come from and how are they having those kind of years? And, there's that old saying, Dan, about things kind of evening out and people finding their level. And there is some of that that's true. And some guys have breakout years, but for the most part, what you're hitting on April 28th may be exciting for you, but the real proof is what are you hitting on September 15th. John Mozeliak said that. You were talking about the Cardinal roster as Choate delivers the pitch to Shin-Soo Choo leading off for the Reds here in the 8th inning. He said, the roster doesn't matter for opening day either. He was telling a bunch of people the roster that's really important is the roster that I'm dealing with in July, mid-July. And I think there's a lot of truth to that.
You know, Randy Choate starts this inning. Then you have Votto, arguably the best lefty in the lineup. So it's kind of interesting that this is where he wants to use Randy Choate. Now, it's not like he couldn't keep him in to face Cozart, then Votto as well, which he may.
I think he will. I think he's in for this inning.
Yeah, and that's the way that he would approach it here. And Dusty, the way he's done it with his lineup, it's a lefty here and Chu, and then you got righty, lefty, righty, lefty, righty, lefty. So it makes it very tough for matchups at the back end of games.
And that's why he does it that way. That's part of making out a lineup, is spread out the left-handers if you can, if it's practical to do that. So Chu going deep in the count after swinging at the first pitch the first few times up. He's now worked a full count and maybe should have worked a walk.
Season not even a month old, but the helmet looks like he's been playing for Cincinnati for 20 years.
Craig Biggio, Manny Ramirez come to mind.
Nasty stuff. Pine tar in the front. It's Julian Tavares when you need him. 3-2. Cosma to his left. You know, Randy Choate had a pretty tough spring, but slowly but surely getting outs and making a difference. AT&T Uverse Rewind. Get you caught up with, you're just joining us, Joey Votto, RBI single back in the first, and for Votto that was RBI number 11. Matt Latos, the starter for the Reds, 6 innings, 5 hits, no runs. Wainwright very good, 5 hits, but the 2 earned runs. Here's the answer to our question, if he would stay in the game, and he will. Zach Cozart. Good looking slider there. Ninth appearance for Choate this ball game tonight. Oof. Opponent's only hitting .222 against him. Cozart is hitting .219. Sacrifice back in the first. A single in the third and grounded out. Little chopper that rolls foul. Jake Westbrook has been on the tough luck end of some games.
Don't stop cheering.
This bullpen has let some leads go away, but starting staff has been sensational. You know, collectively, starting 5 now, the ERA has dropped to, I believe it might be under 2 or right around 2. But either way, first month of the season, you couldn't ask for a better start from your 5 starters.
And Wainwright's good. When you look at 7 innings, 2 runs, good here tonight. You're going to win 80% of those games or more. Go 7 innings, give up 2 runs.
Two outs and nobody on. Votto lines it out to left, and it gets away from Holiday. Almost got Votto back in the bag at first. Good effort by Holiday.
walking line drive. He does keep the ball in front of him on this dive. He lays out. That would have been a tough play to make. Very tough play to make. Ball actually gets caught underneath him. Votto thinking about two. And there's Wigginton trying to sneak in behind it.
So Randy Choate gets the first two, and then Holiday just a little bit short coming up on that diving attempt. So Rosenthal coming in with a runner at first and 2 outs when we come back. Budweiser, the official beer, Major League Baseball. Great times are winning. Grab some Buds. And by Ford, the official cars and trucks of the St. Louis Cardinals. Brandon Phillips digs in with a runner at first. Chevy called to the pen. It's Rosenthal. That'll help. One pitch, and this should do it. Votto left stranded. Cardinals need to get something going. They trail 2-0 here at Busch. All the post-game reaction from both sides. You'll hear from Mike Matheny. The Cardinals, though, need to get something going. They'll have to do it against now a setup man in Jonathan Broxton. Remember, The idea this offseason was that Chapman would move into the rotation. They re-signed Broxton. They picked him up late last year. He would have been their closer, and clearly gives them great security at the back end of games. But now you got a great 1-2 punch.
They really decided that pretty early in spring training, didn't they? I mean, there was a question in spring training and some disagreement in the Reds camp as to whether or not Chapman would be a starter or a closer. And, you know, you could see it working both ways, frankly. And the theory was that you weren't getting enough innings out of a guy that was the most dominating player on your team. But those innings are important innings. So would it be better to have him be a starter and dominate that way?
Craig hits it down the right field line. That is fair. Into the corner. Alan Craig on his way to second base. Leadoff double, and yet again the Cardinals with the tying run coming to the plate.
Been waiting for that Nissan drive of the game, and it's delivered by Alan Craig down and away, and he takes it the other way. It looked as if he didn't think that ball would stay fair, but it did, just barely in the corner. And I have a feeling we're going to have Mr. Chapman start to warm up here pretty soon.
I don't know about you, Rick, but to me, as dominating as he was a year ago, and I understand it's not 200 innings, but it's the importance of the innings that he pitches in. To me, he's in the right place.
I'm with you.
And remember, we haven't even mentioned Sean Marshall, who at times helped them out back into their bullpen last year, the former Cub.
Very good pitcher. Very solid. Chapman is on another planet, though.
He really is.
I mean, we've got guys in our bullpen throwing in the high 90s, but he's low hundreds.
1-0 pitch to Yachty. Sends it to deep center field. It's at the track, at the wall, off the wall. Molina on his way to second base. The Cardinals finally get on the board. As John Kelly would say, we've got the Blues going on tomorrow. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's 2-1.
Holy jumping, as Darren Pang would say. Yadier Molina, his third hit of the night, and he very nearly tied this game. I thought that had a chance to maybe get out over that center field wall. That's a breaking pitch, and he's looking for it, sitting on it, driving it, and off the bottom of the center field wall. And I don't really know what all that sign language is all about, but it must be good.
First run in the last 16 innings. If anybody in this lineup needs a big pick-me-up, it's this guy at the plate. This crowd comes alive. Freese, and Broxton has Yachty between second and third, wants to stay in the rundown. Molina will do so, allowing Freese to advance to second base. Struggles continue for Freese, who has not advanced the runner to third, and now there is one out. What a heads-up play by Yachty Molina, and these fans give him a standing ovation, understanding what he just did.
Well, he's very conscious, and he's trying to tell David to get to second base. He's got to stay in the rundown as long as he can, and Broxton stopped running. That was the problem. He did the right thing. He got on the third base side of him, Dan, trying to get him to go back to second, but he stopped. And once he stopped, Yachty stopped, and now he's got to throw the baseball, and he stays in the rundown long enough, and here he is, Carlos Beltran. 1 for 7. Kind of been waiting for this at bat. We knew it was coming here tonight at some point.
One out, runner at second base. Beltran on the first pitch. Get out of play. And it will. I know this goes against what many would believe, but as you look at this situation, I'm not saying intentionally walk Carlos Beltran and put the potential go-ahead run on, but you're dealing with Beltran here, or do you want to deal with Pete Kozma on deck?
Well, clearly you'd rather deal with Pete Kozma than Carlos Beltran, but the reality would be you've only got one out. You're going to have to deal with more than just Pete Kozma. So if it were 2 outs, maybe a different story. But when you walk,
yeah, I understand that.
The tying run, late in the game.
Right now, this is the hottest bat the Cardinals have had, arguably, in the last 7 to 10 days,
no
going
question.
back to the series in Philly. And normally, I don't think we'd ever say that.
And truthfully, the pinch hitter you're seeing after that is either Tony Cruz or Shane Robinson or Jermaine Curtis, the 3 remaining Cardinals on the bench. So certainly not the firepower that Beltran gives you.
Here's the 0-1 pitch. Make it 0-2. You mentioned it earlier too, Rick, how Beltran is not shy about going after that first pitch. And here we are late in the game, down by a run, and first pitch hit out of play. Not right, not wrong. Just that's a lot of his style and how he goes after it.
Exactly right. And I'm okay with it.
They want to go inside the 0-2. Oh, he rips it foul.
That's the quick hands of Carlos Beltran at work, because they wanted to go inside and they got it inside. But he was able to get pretty good wood on it, even though he pulled it foul.
Think about Freese's running speed, where the outfielders are at. They're deep. Rick, how would you rate the outfield arms of the Cincinnati Reds?
Well, the best one's in right field. Jay Bruce has an outstanding arm. Not as familiar with Paul, haven't seen him play as much. Chu, not really a center fielder. He's really more of a left fielder.
Playing the pull, they're very deep in the outfield as time is called.
When they brought him over here, they were taking a chance putting Chu in center field. Jose Oquendo has some potentially important decisions ahead of him. He knows those arms, and he knows his runner.
Here's a 1-2. Wainwright tonight, 7 innings, the 5 hits, 2 earned runs. He walked 2, struck out 6, 99 pitches of work. Trying to take him off the hook. One-two pitch. Beltran high in the air, shallow left. Who wants it? And it's caught. Xavier Paul and Freese back to the bag at second.
Beltran could not quite get on top of that pitch. They wanted it inside, and it was out over the plate. A bit of a sloppy cutter. And almost an adventure for the 3 fielders converging on that ball, Dan. I didn't see a lot of confidence on anybody's face or in their mannerisms going after that ball. I thought it might drop.
Look at where Paul is playing, even here for Pete Kozma. Pretty deep out left.
Sure is.
6.92 bullpen ERA on the road this season. Again, only 2 wins for the Reds away from the great American ballpark. Kozma has ended 3 innings tonight. He's saying not a 4th. Shane Robinson moved to the on-deck circle.
Latos has had 2 games where he has left with the lead with a bullpen blue save. Cardinals hoping it's 3.
One and one. Tough night for Cosma. Twice he has struck out, also flied out to right. Fans didn't like that call. It evens it up. Anxious moments for both skippers. Pitch number 13 of the inning. Cosma breaks his bat. Votto, all types of English on that ground ball. And he makes the play. Cardinals, though, get on the board. It's 2-1 as we head to the ninth. The bottom of the, or rather the top of the 8th, and Beltran, after flying out in a pinch hitting appearance, stays in the game, takes over in right field. Alan Craig moves from right to first base. Very frustrating inning in many ways for the Cardinals. Back-to-back doubles, and with a runner at second, cut the lead to 2-1, not able to advance that runner to third.
That fly ball was pretty shallow in left field. Probably would not have scored the runner, but you can't really say the situation would have been exactly the same anyway, but certainly minimized the Cardinals' chances of tying this game, not moving the runner from second to third.
There he is, Chapman, getting loose in the pen.
How about the bullpen guy catching him all year?
Have fun.
I would not want to be that guy. Throwing 100 every night.
Fluid and easy he is too. They talk about it. You know, we mention it a lot, how the ball just jumps out of a pitcher's hands, and they mention that with Chapman it's even more so because he's big, long, lanky, keeps himself in good shape, and so fluid, free and easy when he throws. Pitch at 97 from Rosenthal, and the strikeout of Jay Bruce.
Up in the zone. Jay Bruce has not been able to catch up with that pitch at all tonight.
Does it amaze you, Rick, in today's day and age of baseball, how many guys are now throwing like a Rosenthal and a Joe Kelly and a Chapman, and the list goes on and on. There are more power pitchers now than maybe we've ever seen.
I think pitching has evolved over the years because there was a time not that long ago where pitchers were told not to lift, not to do any strength training because that would take away from the kind of the suppleness of your arm and the arm speed, and it would actually be a negative. It would be if you build up your chest or even your biceps, it's just not good for a pitcher. And I think people have found that that was kind of an old wives' tale essentially, and you can maintain flexibility and strength, and I think that has led to more pitchers throwing in the high 90s. Not that pitchers didn't do that before, but there's so many more.
Frazier, a high fly ball into center. You know, Rosenthal was at the ballpark just about every day of the offseason as he moved to the city. Wanted to work out at Busch Stadium. Did so with Chris Carpenter a bunch throughout this offseason, and actually added about 15 to 20 pounds of muscle. I'm not sure it really translates for those of you watching at home just how well put together and thick he is. He's a big kid. There's Xavier Paul and a strike. Now, having said all that, and we mentioned this a little bit yesterday, but we all get, at least I do, and I know a lot of fans do, enamored with velocity. And these guys, if it's not placed in the right spot, will hit it. It's strength, which leads to the velocity, but it's also control, which is more of a finesse thing. There's a very good changeup from Rosenthal. He's got a good changeup that he's trying to figure out how to use and when to use. But if you say, do you want to have finesse and fine motor skill as a pitcher, or do you want to have strength? The answer is now yes. You want both of them, and you try to balance them. And you can definitely get too strong and too tight and lose flexibility and lose your ability to throw the ball where you want to. That's certainly possible. Here's a 1-2. Pretty impressive here tonight. Last pitch at 98 from Trevor. One hard thrower to another. Coming in, it's Chapman. Louis Cardinals early season showdown here in the NL Central. Good ball game tonight. Klondike moment of glory. Let's take you back to last season. Matt Carpenter. Would it be deep enough? Bruce. They would challenge. That's Tyler Green. He's safe, and the Cardinals win it. April 17th of last season here at Busch Stadium. And tonight they get the hard-throwing lefty. All-star last year, nearly perfect in the first half of last season, and that's Aroldis Chapman, .73 ERA, 5 of 5 in save opportunities.
And when he's right, he's just so difficult to hit, not just because of the fastball, but he also has a nasty breaking ball to go along with it. And there are times where you see Chapman pitch 35 for 36 and save opportunities. You wonder how anybody hits him, but We've seen him have bad outings. He had a bad outing here in St. Louis where he couldn't throw a strike.
Did that in Cincinnati against the Cardinals too.
And maybe we're hoping for a miracle here, but you know, he's, as Tony would say, he's a man, not a machine, so he's beatable. You just have to gear it up a little bit faster. If you're Shane Robinson, you got to be ready for that fastball, and you got to be ready now.
It's 21 strikeouts in 12 1/3. Opponents hitting just 122 against him. The impressive part, as you talk about, Rick, the fact that he can hit triple digits consistently, only 3 walks this season. Robinson on the first pitch, and I believe that caught the home plate umpire again.
He's saying not again. Wow. Why me? Ouch.
Always find it interesting where an umpire positions himself, and you see there he's fully exposed for the most part. Maybe about 3/4 exposed from where Mesoraco was set up on that pitch, and some umpires will move from pitch to pitch too. Robinson hits a fly ball out to shallow right for the first out. Bruce is there, 1 away. Not much you can do to prepare for a guy that throws like this.
No, you just have to just gear up. You have to just think quicker. And the problem with thinking quicker, but you have to do it to catch up to the fastball, is it just makes you vulnerable to everything else. It makes you maybe expand the zone a little bit. You'll see players swing at pitches out of the zone more because they realize they have to be quicker to commit. You're thinking now. And really bad if he throws a breaking ball to you.
Oh, it is nasty, as you talked about it. Mixing in with that fastball. Here is the 0-1 to John Jay. Crowd tonight, 36,681. Have to give the Reds and Walt Jocketty credit, taking a chance and making a huge financial commitment at the time on a guy that was completely unproven to Major League Baseball. Cuban defector. He signed for just over $30 million, and in baseball terms, not a lot for a guy that's doing this. But you take that chance, and for low market teams, mid-market teams, sometimes you have to gamble, and it's worked.
The guy sitting above him that we can barely see, who's blocked out right now, is Marty Meyer, who used to work with the Cardinals in the scouting department. And he's the head of scouting now for the Reds. Walt Jocketty took him over to Cincinnati, and so it's them making the decision, but they're relying on their scouts and their expertise and their folks that are saying, look, this guy's worth the effort.
Chopper hit to short. 2 outs. Turn to our player of the game, and it's Matt Latos.
Another
6
good
innings.
Yeah, another good quality start for him. That's 6 straight to start the season. Not very many balls hard hit against Latos. He did have 3 walks in this game. But he is in line to pick up his 2nd victory, and he should have 4 on the season. Again, the bullpen has lost a couple for him.
Budweiser player of the game, and now it's Carpenter who was hero in that game in the moment of glory we showed you. And the first pitch is fouled back. It was in July of 2009 for the start of the World Port Tournament in the Netherlands when Chapman defected. They said that he hit 105 at one point, stadium gun in the minor leagues. It was back in 2010. Here's the 0-1 pitch.
Well, there was some talk last year that they actually had him back off on his fastball a bit just to get command, and high 90s is pretty good. If you're going to be that much better with your command and with your breaking pitch in the high 90s, then that's fast enough.
Oh, by the way, you're 6'4", you're put together, and you're left-handed. They've had some pretty good closers in Cincinnati. If you think about Rob Dibble, John Franco, recent memory, the Nasty Boys. 2-2.
Matt Carpenter doing everything he can just to try to put the ball in play somewhere. That's all you can do. Is you don't want to be defensive, but you just want to try to just meet the pitch somewhere, soft liner, anything you can do to find a hole.
Carpenter with a fly ball. This should do it. The Reds take game number 1 tonight here in St. Louis. Chapman a 1-2-3 ninth, and Cincinnati holds on for the victory 2-1.
Frustration is a very solid performance by Adam Wainwright wasted here tonight. He went 7 solid innings, but the Cardinals offense did not help him out very much here tonight. Only 7 hits for the Cardinals, and they stranded 10.
So it is on to the post-game show. Again, our final, the Reds 2, Cardinals 1.